chairs.
Alrighty, at this time I would like to have each of the panelists tell us a little bit about yourself, a bio, maybe your MOS, your rank, anything that you did as a significant, maybe a deployment that you had. So at this time we would start with Charles Gracie, Hot Seat Services.
All right, I'm Charles Gracie. I served in the Navy. I was an ordnanceman. I was deployed in OIF and OEF. Got out on a medical injury, transitioned into trucking that I grew up in. It was something that I had the joy of growing up as a child and deciding what it was I gonna go into after I got out. And started out as a driver, worked in the office in operations, safety, and moved into recruiting. Then founded Hot Seat Services, and through the whole progression, I tried to keep in mind what it felt like to be on the other side, both driver and veteran, and incorporate that into the business model.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you. Next, James Rose.
Hello, my name is J.C. Rose. I'm a driver for Prime Inc. 30-year Marine, retired Lieutenant Colonel, Roth. Of course, after I could have had a job sitting behind the desk, but what fun is that? I'm one of those type of folk that boots on the ground, so what better way to continue to serve our country than driving a truck. I absolutely enjoy it. I've been in the trucking industry now for 2 years. Got my CDLs December of 2020. I now have 2 trucks. My ambition is to own my own fleet, hire veterans and veteran dependents. I'm absolutely enjoying it. Combat tours started out in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, all the way up to OIF. My last tour duty was 13 months. My best tour duty in the military was as a drill instructor down in Paris Island. And also I am now a certified instructor, training those individuals that are coming to the trucking industry to fulfill their ambitions, also to be to continue to be able to serve and provide an essential service to our country and to our communities. President Ford Express, hoorah.
Thank you, James. Next, we have Sarah Lee with Waypoint Vets.
Hi, my name is Sarah Lee. I'm an Army combat veteran and founder of Waypoint Vets. I was in the Army/Army National Guard for 8 years. I did 1 combat tour in 2004 under the 1st Infantry Division. It was considered OIF 1/2. And upon getting out, I filled the days. I gained 3 college degrees, started a photography business, and I ran that for a while, but as my body and mind slowed down, I didn't stay involved with veterans or veteran community, and due to some injuries from deployment, and as I slowed down, things caught up, things I didn't realize were chasing me, and so hit a bit of a rock bottom there and chose to embark on a 4,010-mile coast-to-coast self-supported cycling journey of post-war healing from Yorktown, Virginia to San Francisco, California. And I received immense healing and clarity. I didn't expect that. I knew I needed to earn whatever I had in store. It was a Hail Mary trip for sure, and the kindness I experienced changed everything for me. It reminded me I was still physically and mentally capable of big things, and that we're not as divided as we may think. So on the tail end of that, I founded Waypoint Vets, my 501c3 with the mission of uniting and empowering veterans through adventure. We're composed of volunteers and professionals with a passion to serve, and we cover the costs for our veteran participants. Our adventures combine mental and physical intensity with the stillness and beauty of nature. That's the combination that saved me on my cycling journey, and I knew I needed to give from what I gained out there. We're actively combating post-traumatic stress, military sexual trauma, and suicidal ideation through these trips, through the camaraderie, through the rediscovery and the empowerment that takes place while we're out there together in the wilderness. Sometimes we have just nothing, we have to make something out of it, so the self-sufficiency is off the chains. And we are fully insured with full transparency and platinum profiles through GuideStar, Charity Navigator, things like that. And we're super honored to have aligned and partnered with Veterans in Trucking in 2023 to deliver 4 epic adventures for veterans in the trucking industry, along with the 10 adventures that we have on the Waypoint Vet side. So I'm thrilled for the future, and I'm very excited to give back to my fellow veterans in real and meaningful and lasting ways.
Hey, I like that.
Sorry.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Next, Chris Gonzalez.
Well, I can only follow that up with
No other way about that.
Okay, Big Daddy.
Yeah, my voice never lowered. 19 years and it's still strong. My name is Chris Gonzalez. I am the Driver Engagement Recruitment Manager for Clean Harbors. I'm also the co-lead for our VET ERG. That's our Veteran Engagement Team Employee Resources Group. Grew up in Puerto Rico with my grandfather, who was a CW5 of 37 years. For those of you who know the Army, CW5s are like a unicorn. They sit in a corner and they're non-existent. So growing up with him, I knew I wanted to join the Army, so I joined the Army Reserve in '96. After joining the Reserve, got out of basic training in Fort McClellan, Alabama as an MP. Quickly realized I want to go back on active duty. Yeah, this is where I need to go. The Reserve wasn't the right choice. So I went active duty, ended up in Europe, did multiple deployments there. I went to Nigeria after the bombings in Nairobi in '98, Kosovo in '99, Albania and Croatia in 2000. And then this thing called September 11th came around. I was stationed in Germany at the time. It was like 3:15 in the afternoon with the time change there. I was sitting in the Emergency Operations Center for the 21st Theater Support Command. For those of you that know the military, that is the Army's largest logistics command outside of the continental United States. We're talking the Balkans at the time, so you can only imagine what happened, that conversation right after that moment. So the next 2 weeks, we didn't sleep at all. 2 months later, you're going back stateside. I ended up at Fort Carson to only go back to Guantanamo Bay. So Carson was nice for about the 2 months I was there. Got to do flight missions for the detainees from Afghanistan back to Cuba. I did detainee operations while I was there. Unfortunately, in 2003, I got hurt, led to my medical retirement in 2004. Really important on this is I got out of time during stop loss, which there was not any support for those that were exiting the military at the time. After I got out, had my struggles year after year, found my way into transportation in 2004, been here for the last 19 years. Transportation is probably what saved my life. Really, I love what she's doing over there, but it's kind of the same thing, right? Truck driver's behind the wheel, he's looking forward, he's got his adventure, he's got his mission moving forward. So happy to be here.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Now we'd like to start the questions for the panel. So I'll start with you, James. James, can you speak specifically on challenges that transitioning veterans face when relates to entering the trucking industry from the truck driver's perspective?
Well, sir, I think not just for the truck driving industry, whenever those veterans are transitioning from the military, just the big thing about the discomfort of the unknown. We're leaving from an organization that has policies, that has regulations that we absolutely follow. We hold each other accountable and that type of thing. We absolutely know that on the 1st and the 15th, we're gonna get paid. Whenever you get ready to transition out, a lot of times, like he was just saying earlier, there weren't any programs really out there to ensure that those veterans are prepared to transition. I've heard a lot of people talk about those things now, which is great that we have those type of things. Whenever I transitioned in 2019, retiring, there were some programs that were available, but there were not any that was being presented for trucking industry, which surprised me. The trucking industry is a very, very lucrative industry. You can absolutely take care of your family, send your kids to college, prepare generational wealth and that type of stuff. So the biggest thing is the discomfort of not knowing what's out there in front of you. Because whenever you leave from one base to the next, you already know you have that professionalism and that known MOS that you've been perfecting all of these years. But whenever you get ready to exit the military, you absolutely are not comfortable with what you're getting ready to face there. So the biggest thing is the discomfort. Not saying that we're afraid, because we're absolutely not afraid. It's just the discomfort of not knowing.
Thank you, James. Same question for you, Charles, from the recruiter side. Tell us some of the specific challenges that transitioning veterans face as it relates to entering the trucking industry from your point of view.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, because as a veteran and somebody that also actively recruits and advocates for this, the one thing we have to pay attention to is what their struggles may be. A veteran getting out 10 years ago might be at a different phase than someone getting out a month ago or 10 days ago. And a lot of times we want to put a stamp saying we're veteran friendly, we're military friendly. But what does that mean? Are you understanding that these people are in different phases, that they have different triggers or different pain points, and that we need to have support? We need to offer veteran-led support. We need to make sure that we have events that are incorporating all the veterans and keeping them away from other people and letting them have their little veteran-friendly group by themselves within your organization. They're gonna open up, they naturally gravitate to one another. So incorporating those things and giving them a sense of purpose. What does that mean? These people were serving. They knew what the mission was, they knew what they had to do, they knew what it took to accomplish, and they know what that accomplishment felt like. Well, when you enter the workforce, there's a lot of unknown. So lay out a career path for these folks so that they can see that and they have that expectation, because that's a common struggle that's often missed in this whole transition.
Thank you, Charles. Next question is for Chris. Will you speak about the values that transitioning and promoting veterans from drivers to driver managers or recruiters brings to a trucking company?
Yeah, sure. So veterans have been battle tested over time. I mean, they've had to work jobs outside of the norm. They've had to continue constant communication. They got to maintain that mission-oriented work ethic. That is something that's hard to be able to establish in the civilian side, right? Especially at young ages. How does the trucking industry really work with a veteran? If you think of the trucking industry, there's one thing that's consistent with the trucking industry. It's change and improvement. That's the one thing that I found out with 19 years has been pretty consistent, right? Well, transportation is all about mission oriented. It's about deployment of equipment. It's about maintaining communication. And it has a lot of variety of work that you have available to it. So if I just said what the veteran is, and if I just said what transportation is, the two actually match, right? Works great. So now, why go ahead and push the veteran forward? So I was talking with my buddy Walter Anderson, who's my co-lead for our vet ERG. We're actually talking yesterday, and he told me a story about when they were drill sergeants, DIs in the Marine Corps. I have to say DI instead of DS. There you go. That they were taught to essentially take those young Marines coming in, not to teach them to be Marines, but teach them to be leaders. So if you think about these employees you got coming in at 18 and 19 years old, they're getting the foundations to be a leader. You don't get that in colleges. You don't get that in the high schools at those levels, right? So why not invest in those people that have already started to be taught how to be leaders and continue that investment with them and continue to develop them and make them the leaders for your company?
Thank you, Chris. Next question is to Charles. What value does prioritizing recruiting those with military experience bring to a company?
Well, I think if you lay it out correctly and you bring in these individuals and incorporate them into your team with a clear set path, you're going to see that they're results driven, just like what we ask everyone else to be. And if you put a goal out there, they're going to achieve it. Excuses don't matter. Some of the most successful things I've seen were deployed out through veterans. Veterans don't take failure easily. They want to succeed. They want to hit that accomplishment. So if you define what an accomplishment is within your organization, there's a benefit to that. We're all looking for success. And I think, what does that look like in the recruiting efforts? Well, I think clearly communicating what that expectation is to those individuals you're bringing in, offering that camaraderie that they're looking for, creating that positive environment, and what better success than knowing that veterans gravitate toward other veterans. So if you create that positive experience, they're going to naturally bring in and become your best recruiter and recruit more people to your organization because you created that positive environment for them to succeed.
Thank you, Charles. Same question, Chris. I know you're on the recruiting side. Can you speak on the value? What value does it prioritize recruiting those with military experience bring to your company?
So I would say two words: retention, recruit to retain, and productivity. So If you set your company up for the right veteran culture, in other words, when you bring that person in, you give them that clear path. Hey, if you stick around here for 10 years and you do these things, these are things that you can achieve. It's the same thing that we experience in the military, right? So if you can start to set those guidelines on their expectations, deliver on those expectations, train your managers how to deal with the veteran, not just on the work side, but on the personal side too, to be able to recognize what those struggles are that they're going through. That's gonna help build that culture. That culture, once you have it established right and you're able to hire that veteran in, you're gonna retain them. Now let's talk about productivity. We already established that some of your hardest, best work ethic employees that you have out there are your veterans. So retain them, invest in those guys, and then they're gonna go ahead and do their work for you.
Thank you, Chris.
Hey, sir, if you don't mind, may I?
Absolutely. I've been
Hey,
there.
I know this question doesn't go to me, but just like you were just talking about, one of the things that I have on both of my trucks is mission-oriented, focus-driven. And that's absolutely what we veterans are. We go out there and we're fire and forget weapons. You bring us onto your companies, that type of thing. We're absolutely gonna work hard. You don't have to worry about the loyalty. You don't have to worry about the esprit de corps because we're gonna bring that. We're gonna bring that impeccable work ethic. And we also are very focused on making whatever organization we're part of, moving it to the next level, making it better.
I couldn't agree more on that last one.
Thank you. Thanks, James. Charles, could you articulate from your own perspective the significance of honoring military service through things like custom military wraps, truck decals for professional drivers and their families?
Yeah, so the value in this is understanding the mentality of veterans. We're very proud individuals. We like to stand out, we like to be proud, be loud. It's kind of standing there at attention and puffing your chest out for an inspection. So by putting these things out there, not only are you bringing awareness and paying that respect to that individual or a group of individuals, but you're also advocating for your cause. They become your frontline warrior communicating your cause with their shirts, with their hats, with the truck stickers or the decals or the wraps. All of this stuff might seem very insignificant on surface level, but it has a deeper meaning. There's a sense of pride. It's that version of their today's uniform in your workplace.
Thank you, Charles. Chris, let's expand on it a little bit more and also include coworkers, families, and the public.
So for those of you who know me, this is actually one of my favorite things, is recognizing our veterans. It's all about creating that culture and that environment, right? So you want to hire them, and that's all you want to do with them, you're going to lose them. You got to create that culture. Now, if you think about, look at every veteran, right? Look at your Vietnam veterans. They're wearing their VFW cap, I got mine, and they all got pins all over them, and they all got badges, they all got shirts on. What are they doing? They're recognizing their emblems and what they represented, right? The uniform said the same thing. I saw a Sergeant First Class walking around over there with a 4th ID patch. First thing that came to my mind was, man, was he with Fort Hood or was he with Carson at 4th ID? 3rd BCT, where was he? Where was it, Sergeant? Fort Carson. There you go. I was at Carson as well. So yeah, just by looking at that, you're quickly able to tell. So what does that do? One of the things we do in the service is we want to serve. That's why we joined, and the camaraderie. So literally by just seeing that patch, I was already starting to correlate the two. So that's part of building that culture, right? So what are the things that you can do? I mean, there's truck wraps. We've done several with Clean Harbors. We're actually working on a individual fleet right now. I've got the first 2, one more ready to be wrapped in March, and another one towards Veterans Day of next year. We'll keep building on that, right? Why? Because that $6,000 I spent on that wrap is gonna give you a whole lot more production than you could ever imagine. Plus, I got 16 million people a year watching that truck for the $6,000 that I invested into that driver. Why spend $15,000 on a billboard, which isn't doing anything for anyone? So those are the things that you can do as a company to be able to help and push those recognitions, which is gonna basically build the pride within the vet. And you get pride within a vet, you got some power.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. Now our expert panels will discuss the emergent veteran outdoor programs that Veterans in Trucking offers through a partnership with Waypoint Vets. These outdoor programs honor veteran drivers, addresses their needs, and builds camaraderie with the trucking fleet. So with that, I would like to start with Sarah Lee. Could you summarize the significance of a retreat like the Mission Veterans Expedition that we helped host and partner with Waypoint Vets earlier this year?
I would love to talk about our September Zion VIT retreat. We took veterans in the trucking industry, including Colonel James Rose here.
Hurrah! Good time, let me tell you.
It was a beautiful blend of intensity and peace, and they doubled up on the camaraderie with having the Veteran Foundation, and plus also being in the trucking industry together, and the story swapping from both parts of their life was beautiful. It all got to blend into who they are today, and it was an environment, we create an environment where people are free to be who they've become and worked hard to grow to be. So it was great for them to bring their most present self and be able to be their most present self among peers in that beautiful environment. So we spent our days Bryce Canyon, rappelling. It's called canyoneering. We would navigate the canyons and rappel, in some cases 100 feet plus, and pulling each other over obstacles. And we really needed each other again, and it allowed us to tap into so many things that had been lying dormant since service. Both the camaraderie, the level of challenge, and you beasted out there. He was just tossing people, over the thing, and when you go so hard during the day and you have that opportunity to kind of show what you're made of, and you get to reignite parts of yourself again, and tap back into that, like I said, and it's a beautiful discovery that you make both internally, and then in the evenings when we get to relax together around the fire and open up, you're a little more likely to maybe go into some things and be vulnerable after experiencing a day of intensity with everybody. The camaraderie that manifests from intense situations is the most profound, and I feel stored the most permanently. Intensity forces things, I think, to be stored more permanently and accessed more easily. And that can go for environments like war, or these environments where you're doing crazy physical things in beautiful environments. You're able to process so many things in a different way without that noise, detaching from everything you're familiar with. It really allows for a lot of processing and healing, and to be surrounded by the support just comes out in beautiful ways and meaningful, real ways.
Thank you, Sarah. Could you also just go a little bit deeper on how these trips honor and unite the veterans in a unique way?
Yes, speaking of honor in particular, on my cycling journey, I was not, I feel, living a life worthy of my friend's sacrifice in various ways. And something that came to me on the road is we can honor those that have died on our behalf simply by choosing life and to live fully on their behalf. And it can be that simple. Sorry. So a lot of us struggle with some guilt and survivor's remorse and things like that. So part of our program is we create custom in memoriam dog tags for each of our participants with the names of those they've loved and lost. I'm wearing a set today with some loved ones from the trucking industry here that we carried during our Zion trip, and it's an honor to wear them. So honoring their memory on the trip is huge for us, and also to empower one another through these challenges, like I said. So the symbolism and depth throughout the experiences really encourages new ways of thinking, both about yourself and about the world and people. And just honoring our fallen is huge for us, and also kind of it's it's huge for us.
Thank you. How about long-term benefits that you see from trips like this for the veterans?
Yes, these are very important because in the military they give you a box of medals and coins and say good luck to you. And we wanted this to be the opposite of that, because a lot does happen out there on our trips, which we do have quite a variety of trips, not just canyoneering. We do cater to different ability levels, different ages. Our ages range from 22 to 82 on our trips, from Korea to OEF. So we have an alumni program where everybody keeps in touch. There's a team leader from each group that keeps everybody in touch, and to maintain that closeness, and to the tools that we gain out there from our trips, We have mental health clinicians and licensed massage therapists, certified fitness trainers, true professionals that are out there alongside of these veterans who are figuring a lot of things out. And the veterans themselves, such as Lieutenant Colonel Rose here, brought so much to the experience for other veterans. So keeping them in touch and building a support network nationally is a priority of ours. And also creating positive triggers. You know, we hear that word a lot, speaking of buzzwords from earlier, but those triggers, you know, things, sense, sounds, sights, things like that. When we're out there with the intensities that do happen, the healing that we receive can be reattained once home. So our mental health experts really try to put in place some of those thought processes, such as getting back out in nature and being in environments where some of those that healing can reoccur in you after you've gone home. So basically maintaining that support network, that national support network, and the close-knit family aspect, and also making sense after the fact of what had happened to you on the trip, because a lot does happen, like I said. So.
Matt, can I add one?
Absolutely. Yes.
So the only thing I want to add, the one thing I want to add to this one, it's on.
Yo, there you go. The one thing I want to add to this is ROI, right? Return of investment. So we sent one of our drivers on the same trip with Clean Harbors, right? Chip Kelly. That driver had been with us for several years before that trip. Since then, I've already attributed 4 referrals since September till now. So in 3 months, he has sent us 4 drivers. So if you think about what you spend on marketing, I have already essentially got my return back. So as you're thinking about it, you're going back to your business leaders, and one of the costs is always going to come up. The benefit is there, and it will come because you're re-energizing that vet.
Thank you, Chris. Last, it's to you actually, James. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was-
Well, let me.
Go ahead and start.
I know I'm kind of jumping around here, jumping in front of the moderator here, but for me out there going to Zion, it absolutely was wonderful. First of all, I'd like to thank Veterans in Trucking for sponsoring that, getting us out there to it. Thanks to all the companies that sent their drivers out there. It gave us the opportunity, like we were talking about earlier, being able to still and bring back in that camaraderie that we used to enjoying while in uniform. Getting out there into the canyoneering and that type of stuff, you know, we're out there encouraging each other because some of it was a little bit demanding to some of the other ones. I'm not going to say that was for me, but but we encouraged each other out there. We had a really, really good time. My goodness, the chef, thank you so very much for all the great meals that we had out there. The time around the campfire, it absolutely gave us the opportunity to talk to someone that may have been holding some stuff close to ourselves, that we don't go out and we don't talk to those professionals that we're encouraged to go out and talk to, because those people are strangers, right? So we get the opportunity to share some of those close feelings that we've been holding on close to ourselves, because some of our comrades have gone through some of those same type things. We can lean on each other. You know, we can pray and we can love on each other and just encourage each other to continue to move forward. And if you get the opportunity, just like you just said, a return of investment. If you get the opportunity, whether you're a large company, a small company, or you're an individual, please, 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 I encourage you, I petition you to sponsor a veteran or veterans to go out there and participate in these events. You get the opportunity, again, to meet new friends, extend your extended family. You know, we get a chance to talk to each other, just like she said. We send texts, we call, see how people are doing whenever you're down there, just in different states. One quick story, I was on I-75 rolling up, and I saw old Larry Holmes there. He pulled up right beside me. We roll up, he's yelling through the window, and I'm telling my wife, I said, "Hey, there's Larry." She goes, "Who the hell's Larry?" So I tell her about him, and I say, "Hey, you know, this is one of the drivers that I met out there at Zion," and she better understood what I was talking about. And we roll our windows down, and we're holding a conversation, yelling through the window. And I'm like, you know, the best thing for us to do is call each other. We have headsets, you know, so we can tell them on the phone. So people don't think that 2 different carriers are having an argument, you know. So, we dialed up each other and we talked to each other for the next hour, just going down the road, just reminiscing and talking about our time out there in Zion, the great times, and encouraging our carriers to, sponsor and get some other folk out there. Because again, the return on investment is much more than, that you can even imagine.
Thank you. I couldn't have said it better, Dan. You took my question right out of my mouth. Thank you. I want to personally thank you for your service to our country. Thank you for serving on our board today, or not our board, but our panel today. At this time, I have a special announcement I'd like to have. Well,